Welcome everyone to Good Night and Good Game, your source for geek news for the weeks that were. I'm your host James, and with me as always is my wonderful co-host Hector.
Hello.
And our fantastic producer John.
It's me.
This week on the show, well, honestly, it's been a busy news cycle in our absence.
What?
So we are here to cover both Sony's State of Play and Summer Game Fest. Before we start, don't forget that you can head over to goodnight.gg, where as a patron of our show, you can suggest topics for us to talk about. Also, as a patron, you get access to our off-week episodes. We just recorded a new one right before this show. All right, with all that out of the way, it's time to get into Summer Games Fest.
Summer Games Fest.
So to make this not be a 6-hour show,
Yeah.
we've made a list of what games that we would like to talk about from both State of Play and Summer Games Fest. Now, when I say Summer Games Fest, by the way, I'm using a giant umbrella. I cover Day of the Devs in here and a couple of the other shows. They're all lumped in with Summer Games Fest. So we're going to start with State of Play, but we're not going to break this up saying like this is State of Play, this is Summer Games Fest. We're just going to go all together.
Talking about the new games.
New games. Let's get right to it. So let's see here. First up from State of Play. Well, Hector, you were the first one on the list, so we got Bloodstained, the Scarlet Engagement.
Bloodstained. If anybody remembers, I want to say this was like 2019, probably. There was I want to say it might have been a Kickstarter, but there was an announcement that Iga was back and he was making another, not Castlevania. The original creator of the Metroidvania was making his own indie badass Metroidvania, and it was going to come out. And man, was it cool. I loved everything about it, except a little bit the graphics. I wish that they had gone with more sprites than the 3D thing, but that's a very minor nitpick for a very great game. Very well made. Whole thing about it was awesome. And finally, here we are in the year of our Lord 2025, and we got a trailer for the sequel. The graphics look better. The game looks like more Metroidvania from Iga, which I'm 1,000% in for. I hope he starts to get really creative with it like he did after Symphony of the Night. More like, Portrait of Ruin style, more Harmony of Dissonance style.
This is definitely Portrait of Ruin, because Portrait of Ruin was really based around having multiple characters that you tagged in and out, and that is what is in this game.
Yeah, no, and like this is just the evolution of the formula yet again, and I am 1,000% here for it. I don't think there's anything Iga can do that I wouldn't give at the very least a hard wish list on. I'm here. I'm so here.
I don't mean this as a dig, but it seems slightly slower, like a slower pace than a lot of Metroidvanias I've seen.
The Castlevania has always been a fairly slow-paced series. Like, we watch speedrunners all the time, sure, but there's a rhythm and a cadence to Symphony of the Night. Like, unless you're backdashing constantly, which he does account for in Bloodstained. Like, he actually built that game around speedrunners. So it has a Castlevania, Iga-style Castlevania pacing to it. But yeah, you're right. A lot of things like Guacamelee and a lot of other Metroidvanias, they are much more fast-paced. And those are great for some people. But things like The Last Faith, that's a very slow-paced, even though that's more of a Souls-like. But
it's a difference between in a lot of these games, there are fodder enemies that you're just supposed to plow through on your way to the more difficult challenges. When you start an Igavania, you are underpowered and every fight is a threat.
Yep.
And you slowly ramp up power from there as you enter more difficult areas, but you're supposed to have a bit of a challenge with it.
Mm-hmm. So the next one on the list that I want to talk about is Cairn. And this is a game about climbing a mountain. I want to pause for a second because I need you to understand this game.
Oh, wow.
It's about climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
Now, you will run into other people as you climb the mountain, and you will learn their stories, and you will face trials and tribulations, and there's something about a game that has a very simple premise, and this game's going to come up a couple times throughout what we're talking about, but one of my favorite games of all time is Journey. And if you've never played Journey, it was a first-party Sony title, but still indie, and the idea from Journey, which had no dialogue in it whatsoever, by the way, was you started the game, you saw the mountain in front of you, and your objective was to get to the top of the mountain. And by the time that you've gotten to the top of the mountain, you have probably played with multiple players and you had no idea. The characters speak a language you don't understand, but you find a way to communicate between you and other players. And Cairn is giving me that kind of journey vibe that says, we gave you the simple task of climbing the mountain, but it's what happens along that journey that's going to really move you. And so I just love a great indie title like this, and I think it's going to be fun. Didn't you play a mountain climbing game recently?
Yes, this game reminds me a lot of the game I played called Jusant. It was a game about climbing a mountain. And let me tell you the differences, because the game I played had like light climbing mechanics. There was, say, a Zelda-esque stamina bar that, you know, you only had so much grip, and then you needed to put in a that's right, it was Don't Nod. And then you had to put in a little clasp because you were always tethered to a rope, and you could swing from that rope, and you could use it to, a little bit like Myst, you would solve the puzzles of the civilization as you went towards the top. And the whole idea was like the oceans were gone, and the only place that moisture gathered was at the top of mountains, and you need to find out why the water stopped flowing from the top of this mountain. Very indie, very cute, very good, lots of vibes. What I'm watching from the game you're talking about, James, almost feels like a simulator. Mm-hmm. Like you have to pick your approach. It doesn't seem like there's one way to go. It seems like there's an easy way and a hard way, but the hard way is faster, and you're going to need,
but you know
your ice picks and your tools, and you have to place your feet in the right spot so you have leverage to move between a gap. This game was a much more simplified climbing system, but the story was interesting and the world was fascinating, and again, more of a journey type adventure, the game you're talking about feels, when I look at screenshots from Cairn, it reminds me of all the time I've spent in my life near actual mountains, because the idea of climbing
you just miss Seattle.
Yes, very much so. It just feels impressive and Brobdingnagian and fucking daunting, even just to consider what you might have to start doing to even try to climb this mountain.
But you know what game you do love? Death Stranding.
Oh, I do love Death Stranding.
And
you do a little climbing.
You
do a lot of hiking.
You do a lot of hiking, but that is a game that is about placing one foot in front of the other and just moving towards an objective.
Yeah. But I will say, why are people climbing mountains? Don't.
Because
just play the game.
John, you know the answer to the question, right?
No.
We as human beings.
We already know where it is. Okay?
No, we do know where it is. Of course we know where it is. Why do we climb it?
Because
it's there.
Yep.
Because why do people die every year on Mount Everest as they walk past the bodies of people who died trying to climb it before them?
Because we didn't have these games. Yeah, and now we do. So stop climbing, people.
I really wish they would have stopped climbing people would stop climbing Mount Everest. They're littering at this point with their dead bodies.
So the next game I want to talk about, and I'm going to keep it very brief, but if you know me, I got to talk about it, and that is Marvel Tōkon Fighting Souls. Ooh. Now, this was the drop out of the Sony Game Fest. So I'm big in the fighting game community. I follow every fighting game that comes out. I have a fight stick. I'm going to get a hitbox soon. Like, I love fighting games. And people in the fighting game community, we know the cycle of fighting games, right? So you get a Street Fighter, then you'll probably get a Marvel vs. Capcom, maybe a Mortal Kombat will come out, then an Injustice. There's patterns to when fighting games come out, basically. And so when I saw like Captain America and Iron Man on a fighting game screen, I was like, oh, this must be Marvel vs. Capcom. And I could not be more wrong.
Nope.
Now, since I'm out of the loop, I'm just going to ask you one simple question, James.
Sure.
When you saw the trailer for this, were you thinking, finally?
I mean, Marvel vs. Capcom, baby.
I mean, but were you thinking, finally, what is Tōkon? Help me out.
This is so Tōkon, I don't know the definition of the word, but so one of the things I want to point out is that Marvel vs. Capcom is a series that is run by Capcom. Right?
Yeah.
The same people behind Street Fighter. So when I see two Marvel characters fighting, I'm like, oh, it must be Capcom. It must be this. And then suddenly Arc Systems Works logo appears on the screen. Now, if you're unfamiliar, Arc System Works are the ones who create Guilty Gear,
Yep.
one of my favorite fighting games of all time. And PlayStation basically got an arrangement to get Arc Systems Works to sit down with Marvel people and go, what if we just made a Guilty Gear style Marvel fighting game that's a giant anime fighter?
Mm-hmm.
I could not be more excited.
It looks so fucking cool. And like, if anybody knows if anyone is unfamiliar with Arc Systems Works and the Guilty Gear franchise and the Blaze Blue, and they do things with cell shading. Forgive my lisp. Cell shading. That no other company is able to do. They make their games look like moving anime pages. And animated movies. Their characters all have just the right stretch when it needs to be, just the right elongation. That it feels like a drawing, and it's not. And that it's been all the way through every Blaze Blue, every other small like one-off franchise they've made. Definitely every Guilty Gear. Every Guilty Gear gets more and more beautiful, and it feels like somehow they're using the exact same sprites they were using 20 years ago in their first game.
Yep.
Now they're doing Marvel. And not Capcom's out of the picture. There's no Mega Man in this game. It's just Marvel characters.
Baby, that was Robbie Reyes' Ghost Rider. That is my Ghost Rider. Johnny Blaze is great. Robbie Reyes is my Ghost Rider.
So what we're looking at, and the reason all of my fighting game friends are so excited about this is because it's disruption. It's not Marvel versus Capcom. It's not Street Fighter with a Marvel skin or vice versa. It's not, another MVC, which nobody was going to be bored with. Everyone was going to love another MVC.
But I didn't notice any Hulk, so I can't
they only
team him
showed
up
you
with
8 characters.
Spider-Man.
They literally only showed you 8 characters.
Right.
Also, I want to point out, never has this, as far as I know, never has this happened before. This is a 4v4 fighter. Now, that isn't 4 players. That is, you get to pick 4 characters and fight against another 4 characters.
Yeah, if you're familiar with Tekken Tag, just double it.
Yep, Tekken Tag, double it. Mm-hmm. The biggest that we've had so far was 3v3 in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Mm-hmm. So we're all in the fighting game community going like, wow. Now, one of the things they talked about during the interview was like, oh, do I need to learn 4 characters to be properly good at this game? And the developers were like, no. If you just want to be good with one character, study that character. You'll still have the other characters who will be like reinforcements who will jump in from time to time, but you can just be Iron Man if you just want to be Iron Man.
Yeah. Sounds great. It's very, very cool.
So fucking excited for it. All right. Next one is your pick, Hector. What do you got?
Nioh 3. How do I talk about this? This year for me has been the year of Souls-likes. And Souls. James and I and our buddy Ross are playing Night Rain, and we're having a good time most of the time. It's a little undercooked, especially for a From Software game. But I, this year, have played the first Berserker Kazan. I'm going through the Lies of P DLC right now. And someday soon, we are going to have Nioh 3. Nioh, the original Nioh, and Nioh 2 are this incredible distillation of the Souls fighting form, where they wanted Soul-style combat, which is animation-based and easy to fuck up because, like, the things that are there, and there's very little cheating going on. If you get hit by something, you get hit by it. And you need to know your moves, and there's a lot of different moves, and there's a lot of different weapons, and you can swap back and forth between them to make combos that work between weapons, and there are like 18 different weapons, and they all basically create their own character class. They all have different attributes you can put on them, from fire to poison to whatever else, and different enemies are weak to different things, and so you're playing this game of like 12D chess with every combat encounter you get to, just to try and survive. And everything from the first enemy you fight to the last is incredibly fucking deadly. And in 2, they made it co-op, and my buddy Ross and I played through it beginning to end, including the DLC. We loved every second of it, and God, it was hard. It was so, so hard. These are some of the hardest games I've ever played, and man, do I love them. And early 2026, we are getting the 3rd edition, Nioh 3, and I could not be more excited. It is the Samurai Souls-like, and it is Oh man, I'm so here for it. I relish the challenge. I thought 2 was harder than Sekiro. I'm gonna go ahead and throw that out there.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Okay, my pick is next. All right, listeners, I have a confession. As much as I am a gamer, and as much as I admire the man's work, I actually have not played that many SUDA 51 games.
That's fair.
I played the very first No More Heroes,
Mm-hmm.
but really not a whole lot outside of that. And during Summer Games Fest, we got a trailer for a game called Romeo is a Dead Man. And it seems
That's such
like
a
this
SUDA title.
weird post-apocalyptic kind of world where this character Romeo dies and his grandfather, I want to say, is kind of like a Rick and Morty character who's a mad scientist, and he's like, hey, I'm going to resurrect you so that you can't die. Here you go.
Huh.
And I don't know if I can.
It's hard to describe the visuals
It's
of
hard
seeing.
to describe.
Yeah.
Like I say, just go on YouTube and just Google or put into YouTube Romeo is a Dead Man and look at what this game is. It is the most wild, out there, fucking Tarantino-esque fucking like gore fest.
But the
in best
pre-animatic
way.
looked like Spider-Verse meets Bakshi or
Yeah,
something.
And most of his stuff is like that. It's got so much character and so much personality. You don't care that the gameplay is 2 points above mid. The same was true for No More Heroes, and the same is true for all of his games. They are all flash and all style, and so much so that you forgive its substance not quite meeting that style, just because you are having such an incredible time playing this game, visuals and audio alone. And yeah, it's good shit. It really is. You're there for the spectacle, and you will not be disappointed.
Yeah, I'm super excited. 2026. All right, Hector, you are up next.
All right. Mortal Shell 2. How do I want to talk about this one? Mortal Shell came out in the early days of Souls-like.
They kicked off Summer Game Fest with this. By the way.
Yeah. No, I don't think anyone expected them to make another one of these, specifically because Mortal Shell came out in the very, very early days of Souls-likes, and it was, from what I understand, pretty indie. But the graphics were incredible. The combat was well done. It did absolutely nothing to explain its strange, abstract world and its weird-looking characters and its tough-as-nails combat and its, interesting lore. It just went ahead and threw itself out there and said, yeah, you're going to die a lot until you figure out what's going on. And when you finish the game, you're still not really going to know what's going on. But it's, brutality, and it's I don't know, like it's a early 2000s death metal cover video game.
Okay.
It's, like look at this crazy fucking sadistic dark fantasy art that we made, and also Souls combat. And when this came out, no one had ever seen anything like it. And now I'm looking at it, and they really ramped everything up to 11 for part 2. And you have my attention, sirs. This is very cool.
I don't think that I even remember hearing anybody talk about the first one.
Yeah, no, it was. I want to say it was. You could get it on Game Pass when Game Pass very first came out, and people like Fighting Cowboy covered it because there weren't a lot of other Souls-likes at the time.
Right.
But
Now there's
I don't
like
think
5
it took
billion of them.
anyone more than like a few weeks to play through it and never talk about it again.
Huh. All right. Let's see. The one that I want to talk about next is I live on a lot of game dev spots. Game dev Facebook, game dev Blue Sky, Twitter, all that. And so there's a lot of developers who do like Screenshot Saturdays, or they're showing up projects that they're working on. And so this is a project I have been following for a couple of years now. The official title of it is Mouse PI for Hire. It is a first-person shooter like game that is in the style of like Steamboat Willie.
Yeah, think Cuphead as far as like frame by frame hand drawn animation.
Yeah. And so like the world is actually like rendered using like 3D, but all of the characters themselves are all hand drawn animation. And it's basically somebody gave Mickey Mouse a Gatling gun and said,
Yeah.
"You're a police person."
Yeah, you're a
Now
1920s detective with a Tommy gun and a bowler hat. You get out there and solve some crime with bullets.
Yep. And everything about it just fucking speaks to me. Like and this is going to come up a lot in these discussions that we're going to be having in this episode, but a lot of the games that have been really like intriguing me lately are ones that have a very unique vision and art style. Like one of the games that came up during Summer Game Fest was like they showed off the trailer for like Code Vein 2. And I looked at it and I was like, I'm sure the gameplay's fine, but the art style is so boring, I don't want to engage with
it. It looks like Anime Souls, and it looks like generic Anime Souls.
Right.
And the first game looked like that, too, I'm not going to lie. And while those games were fun to play, they weren't much to look at.
Yeah. And so Mouse PI for Hire, like, man, this game just, it looks fun. It looks like fascinating. And you know the music is going to be straight on point. When you have an influence like this, like, you go all in on it. And I'm super excited about it.
And for me, and this is a bonus for me, it looks way easier than Cuphead.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Cuphead was downright sadistic some of the time.
All right, Hector, you got a big old block here.
Yeah, I have a block here that I'm going to try and not spend too much time on any one of these titles, but we're going to start off with Atomic Heart 2. I was a big fan of Atomic Heart right up until the moment I played too much of it. Atomic Heart was a really cool game from a rather eastern studio, and I'm talking like the Balkans, Russia, like that area. I don't know exactly where from, I'm sorry. But all about an alternative future where the communists won and we had these amazing utopias, and now the AI is taking over and the robots are loose, and now we got to fight them all. Incredible, beautiful graphics. Wonderful story, lots of quality through and through. Some very questionable design decisions as far as the game opening up into the world, into the open world is concerned. To the point where I got through the first portion of the game, had the time of my life, and then realized what the open world was like, and I stopped playing.
Oh.
And, you know, like there's a little bit I wish I would have kept with it, but now I'm seeing the trailer for 2, and it looks even better than the first.
Was there just not enough to do?
No, what it was that in the open world, there were enemies abounding around, and there were these, you know, robots that you call help to other enemy robots, and they would all, you know, helicopter in and fight you. And you couldn't, like, liberate an area. Enemies would just infinitely respawn. So instead of being incentivized to fight them, you were incentivized to run from them.
Yeah.
And so you ended up, whenever you were out in the open world, traveling between locations of really fun, cool shit, you were just kind of running from robots trying not to die. And that got old very, very fast. So that's kind of what happened to me. And this looks like whatever their open world is, that they've made it much, much more interesting.
Yeah.
I also have to point out their second title that they announced immediately after announcing Atomic Heart 2. And that is The Cube, which, for some reason, is an online MMO, I guess.
There were like 3 MMOs that were announced.
Yeah, what are they doing? An audience, are y'all playing a bunch, like 3 MMOs at once?
Well, we extended our days to like 36 hours from now on. So
I know very few people that are playing one MMO.
And maybe it's our age group or something, but I don't know I don't even know anyone who's playing the Dune MMO, and it's Dune.
No,
I'm not going to play it.
Everybody I know is either old school Warcraft people or they're playing Final Fantasy 14. Yeah. And you know what? If you'd asked me 15 years ago what MMOs are your friends playing, I would have been
Those two.
I would have been like Final Fantasy 11 and World of Warcraft.
Yep.
So like, is there room for another MMO?
I don't know. I know there's no more room for extraction shooters.
Jesus.
Yeah. But I don't know why they're doing this. It's a neat concept, and in another time, in another place, it might have been very successful. I don't know why anyone in this day and age makes a game like this, but I mean, it looks cool. It looks cool. I'm not going to say it doesn't look
super
cool.
saucy.
What I am saying is that I'm not going to play it. I'll play Atomic Heart 2. I'll definitely give that a college try. I'm not playing The Cube. I'm not. Sorry. I don't have time.
No matter how tight those buttocks are.
I want games that are shorter And I'm not kidding. I want all my games to be shorter so that I can play more of them. There are too many awesome looking games to play. Make them shorter.
Yep.
Next one on the list, Onimusha, Way of the Sword. I have been an Onimusha fan since the beginning.
This is a blind spot in my Capcom knowledge.
Yeah, and this is straight up some Resident Evil shit. Like, we wouldn't have... Like, Onimusha, I believe the original Onimusha started as a prototype for a Resident Evil game.
I also was never a huge samurai person until recently.
Ah, yes. So, we haven't had an Onimusha game in a very, very long time. And the series took a hard turn after 3, where it stopped being about cool samurai shit with... the faces of real actors over the top of the characters and started being about like some anime shit. And this is a return to form from back in the day where we have a real actor's face doing cool samurai shit in a slightly RPG-esque action third-person setting. And I'm so into it. I'm so here for this. I cannot wait. Capcom, please continue your streak of making awesome shit.
You said they're using another famous Japanese actor for
yes,
this one
absolutely. As well? Yeah. And I don't know everything about him, but they're using this actor, and he's doing all the mocap, and it really does look like the actor, practically photo real. It's so cool. Onimusha, Way of the Sword. Can't wait. Yeah. So excited. This next one. We
need to talk about this. So before
we start, John, stop the trailer. Stop the trailer. I need you to understand before you watch this trailer, John, because I need your reaction, that this is entirely rendered, and every single bit of it is rendered in Unreal Engine 5.
Okay. And I want to point this out.
There's no live action or filming of anything in this game.
If you are listening to the podcast version of this, bless you. We love you.
We do love you.
Do go on YouTube and look up the trailer to the game Felt That Boxing. So you can understand what we are about to show you for the live stream.
Just open up your YouTube homepage, and it should be one of the first videos that's up there. It's been on my feed forever. I don't know why.
This fucking trailer blew my mind.
Yeah.
It has been so long since I've watched a video game trailer where I was staring at it going, is that... Like, they assured you before you watched the trailer at Summer Game Fest, by the way, this is all rendered in Unreal Engine 5. There is no live action in this.
Go ahead and roll it.
Yeah, go ahead and roll it, John.
Yeah.
So
we might talk over it a little bit. But what else we are getting, dear listener, in this incredible looking game is a Punch-Out game. We are getting a game about a well-to-do young man who is down on his luck and rather bullied, and he is going to learn to box. It's all done with what look like felt puppets, and it is a bit of a comedy, and the game just looks amazing.
It looks like puppets.
So beautiful. I would swear to God there are people under these puppets with their hands up their ass. Like, they look like a Jim Henson production.
Yeah.
It is gorgeous and interesting, and the gameplay looks fun, and I love me a Punch-Out. I love me a good boxing game, and holy crap, how did I not know how much I wanted this? Like, this is one of those things.
And you know what's really selling it is like the first of all, there's like an overly faux shallow depth of field and a harsh backlighting, which they do to puppets all the time.
And they don't make the character hold things.
They nail the lighting. They nail the animation.
And they stick with, like, I'm pretty sure they're doing like a 30 frames per second thing to make it look like video, like television.
It is just, I've never seen this much care put into the visuals of a game, and that is saying a lot.
Like the closest I can think of is going back to Cuphead.
Yeah.
Where you have a distinct vision of like the way this needs to look. And like, again, go watch the trailer because there's like a scene where like you're like unclogging a toilet and like the puppet is not physically grabbing the plunger because a puppet can't physically grab a plunger. It's doing a motion the way that a puppet would do a motion. And like, I was just sitting there and I immediately had to fucking post it to every Discord I'm in, just being like, y'all, fucking go look at this.
Yeah.
Like, very rarely do I get stunned by the look of a video game, and maybe because the concept is so simple and it's just a boxing game that they can spend more time on the animations.
Yeah.
But man, like, this was probably the trailer of Summer Game Fest for me.
Yeah, that's definitely on my wish list. I've always had like I never went into it in any way, but I always had a deep dive love of puppets and puppetry and how they and it weirdly has helped me as a filmmaker because like there's been certain moments that I've been shooting where I'm like, no, he needs to touch her right now because we've been doing cross shooting, and if we don't see them touch, it won't feel like they're there. And I learned that from like puppets and like Jim Henson rules of thumb, you know? And I'm curious to play that game because I'm curious if they do like any inside knowledge. Like I'm wondering if there's moments where the puppets do carry something and it cuts to a different shot before they grab the thing.
Not to get too off topic here because we have a lot more games to talk about, but if you've never read the Jim Henson book that was written about him fairly recently. It's a fascinating, I listened to it in audiobook format. But there's something that comes up a lot when people talk about Jim Henson and Sesame Street and the Muppets and all those things, is that they say that it's so fascinating that everybody that's on set during times where there are puppets, or Muppets specifically, know that there are people working them. But the moment they say action, you as a human being, 9 times out of 10, become so engaged with the Muppet, you forget there's a person there.
Also, it's easier.
I think there's a magic to that.
It's weirdly easier because if I'm talking to you, the actor playing a character, like there's so many thoughts in my mind. But if a puppet's talking to me, I'm like, I can fully believe that it is that thing because it has to be.
All right, so the next couple games are my picks, and it's really great that we actually got to lead with Felt That Boxing because the next 2 that I'm talking about, I'm going to encourage y'all to watch the trailers for as well. The first one is called Out of Words, and it is just a very simple platformer that was made entirely with claymation.
Ooh.
It is a co-op platformer game. They actually did all the stop motion for themselves. Ooh. Hector, we are going to play this game.
And I'm so in.
It's
super in.
It's a 2D platformer.
It is a 2D platformer.
More co-op adventure games, please.
Like, everything about this is just old school stop motion. Think, I've never seen it, but Coraline.
Oh, yeah.
It has that same kind of vibe to it. Yeah, all of it. And like, everything in the trailer is just, here's us like spending hours doing the stop motion for this game. Again, like I said earlier, I'm falling in love with the games that have a unique art style to them, including this next title, which is Fractured Blooms. Now, this one doesn't have as extreme of an art style. This is a game that, look, I am not a person who ever really tries to buy into marketing hype with things. When Fractured Blooms trailer started, it looks like a very generic Stardew Valley. You work on a farm, and nothing in the trailer they showed us had too much weird about it.
Yeah, it's cozy vibes.
Your cozy vibes. It's going to be a cozy time. I'm going to go do my farm. Yeah,
bad
sure,
lighting.
that's
I'm
great.
smelling doki.
Right. So
don't eat that.
The creators they step out and they're like, hey, so this cozy farming sim that we made, it's influenced by Silent Hill and Doki Doki Literature Club. And I was like, those 2 things should never be in the room with each other.
Right? Don't haunt my cozy game, guys.
Like,
I mean, do, because I'm in. But.
What? Like, yeah, all of a sudden it goes into like full nightmare mode after you've been like quietly farming all day. And by the way, and I did talk about this a few podcasts back, I finally did play Doki Doki Literature Club. And that's after knowing the ending and everything. Like, I watched a ton of YouTube videos about it, and yet it still managed to shock me while I was playing it. And if that's your influence for this game, then I don't know, man. Fuck it, I'm in. We ball.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got next? Oh yeah, we're both excited to talk about.
Oh yeah,
we're so excited to talk about this that we both made marks on our spreadsheet of like, we got to talk about this one.
Yep. So we are going to talk about Mixtape. Mixtape is a nostalgia-based, slice-of-life, wonderful-looking game, animated beautifully with, like, you know, a kind of a lower, like, 80s-style frame rate and all detailing the story of,
Again,
I want to say, like the last
unique
night
art
or the
style.
last weekend that all of these friends from high school are going to be hanging out with each other before they move on with their lives. And, you get this 80s core like soundtrack and these kids going out playing in the woods together or hitting a baseball, riding their skateboards, TPing houses, just being fucking suburban rat kids. And it's just, man, there's music and the soundtrack.
So
the
let's talk about
fucking
the soundtrack.
soundtrack,
Yeah.
like is just wall to wall bangers from now and before. Just
They've
so
got
much
Susie and the
cool
Banshees. They've got Iggy Pop.
Silverchair.
They've got Silverchair. This is actually very rooted in 90s.
Oh yeah,
So
90s,
it is
yes.
literally like I was watching this trailer and I was like, oh, I lived this high school experience. That's how old I am. Is they're making games about my high school experience now, and that's weird.
Yeah.
And yeah, Smashing Pumpkins is on there. Fucking like it's The Cure. The Cure's on there. Like it's called Mixtape for a reason. And again, to go back to what I keep repeating, it's a game with a unique art style.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And music style that is so. Man, I can't wait.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a very, very cool one. I'm so in.
All right, my pick for the next thing to talk about was out of nowhere, because if you're familiar with the history of the Scott Pilgrim video game that came out around the time of the movie, know that it was a It was a 2D beat 'em up that they kind of produced as just here's a fun little like Xbox indie game that you could play, and
Yeah,
it's a
it's
fun.
Could play it.
I played
for
it
a
on my
while.
PlayStation
You could.
3.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you could play it for a while, but because Onimusha did the soundtrack and there was a bunch of other people that were involved in it, there were reasons that the game kind of disappeared. And recently it has reappeared, and you can now get the original Scott Pilgrim beat 'em up. But what we got is a sequel game called Scott Pilgrim EX. And again, it's still that River City Ransom 2D, left to right, beat 'em up style of game. And we don't have to spend too long on it, because if you liked the original Scott Pilgrim game, great. This one looks like just more of that.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you have not seen the Scott Pilgrim animated series on Netflix and
you
you're a
should.
Scott Pilgrim fan, absolutely do watch it. I promise you it is not what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's fantastic. Oh yeah, Hector.
All right, Blighted. Blighted is a game. It feels a lot when I look at it like Hades, which is cool. But I will tell you, it is made by the creators of Guacamelee and Nobody Saves the World, two absolutely incredible games, with a ton of love poured into the art, the animation, the gameplay. Guacamelee had incredible fucking platforming gameplay, and Nobody Saves the World had this amazing top-down RPG system where you could like combine skills from all of the different archetypes in the game and just do insane shit the further you played. And we are getting another game from the studio, and this one seems like a Hades like.
But like Aztec Hades.
But like Aztec, because Guacamelee was Aztec. Nobody Saves the World it didn't have a specific style, but Guacamelee was very, very Aztec, very Mexican. And this one feels like a return to that, and it is co-op, but like Hades co-op, and like but by the people who did Guacamelee, with like the super, super tight platforming and controls and combat, and oh man, am I excited for this. Blighted. Wow. Yeah, give it to me.
Yeah,
And it's
super,
already
super
on my
excited
Steam
for that.
wish list. It should be on yours too.
So I'm only going to briefly touch on the next game that I'm excited for. It's called Ill. We didn't get to see a ton about it.
It's Munfish.
Yeah, it's Munfish, and like they're a great, fantastic group of developers. Ill is what they're calling a realistic first-person action horror game. Now, when you toss realistic on there, that usually means you need to run.
Yeah.
It is not a like, oh, I'm going to grab a chain gun and doom my way out of this. It is, I am a human. There are monsters. I need to run and hide. Think your Amnesias, anything along those lines. Outlast. Mm-hmm. Like, I fuck with these kind of games. Like, honestly, I was late to the Amnesia game, and I only got into them because I played A Machine for Pigs because of Jacob Geller's video. And now I'm like, no, I kind of like a disempowered horror game. Don't want them all the time, but like every once in a while, like I do want to play a game where I can't just pick up a gun and go shoot something, because like I read a lot of Lovecraft growing up, and like you couldn't take them down in Lovecraft. It doesn't work that way. They are
you never had a
they're
chance.
creatures beyond your comprehension.
Yeah.
So everything about Ill, like straight up just says like, this is a James game. You know, check out the trailer. All right. Hector, what do you want to talk about next?
Oh man, so I have this one on my list, and James, you can, John, you can go ahead and play the trailer, but I'm not here to talk about how awesome this game is. I'm here to give you all a bit of news. So Splitgate was a pretty interesting but rather generic but interesting shooter idea, where they wanted Halo combat and portals from Portal. You know, and they wanted everybody to have portals that they could set up and they could walk through and just bridge 2 points on a level, and you can shoot through them and you can run through them and you can dive backwards through them to conserve your momentum. If you dive into one, you would come out at the same speed you fell through it in. Like, all kinds of interesting stuff. Novel concept, actually a really smart concept, especially in a multiplayer setting. And they pulled it off, and then they yanked all their support from the game and said, we're working on part 2, everyone, be patient. And now the second one's coming out, and it looks like they've got bigger levels and like more weapons and more ways to use your portals, yada, yada, yada. Neat, right? Fucking neat. Cool. If this is your jam, if it's a multiplayer shooter thing, you could be like, yeah, I'm totally into this. Plus indie. Don't have to feel bad for supporting Call of Duty. And then the developer came out on stage with a Make First-Person Shooters Great Again hat on, and talked about, you know, how shitty the industry is and how he's trying to save it. And I don't have any fucking time for shit like that. I have absolutely no time for that attitude and no time for this guy, and I feel terrible for all of the people who are working on that game, because if I worked my ass off on a video game, contributing my art and my sweat and my tears and my expertise to a video game only to have my boss go out on stage and act a fucking fool, I'd be really fucking pissed off, and I'd want to go work on a different game.
And they have gone, like, he has tried to go back and retract his statement, saying like, oh, I was just trying to cause a stir in the industry.
Yeah,
bro,
no, we get it.
I hate to break it to you right now, we have enough stirs in our real life that we don't need your fucking Make FPS's Great Again hat in our fucking face.
Yeah, and by the way, if you knew anything at all about the FPS genre right now, it has more innovation and more creativity in it than ever before in history ever. Like, if you look at any other indie project, you idiot, you would see that there are games far, far more creative than yours being made on much, much smaller budgets. And you come out here say, like, you're trying to be, like act like some kind of savior? Clown. You are a clown, and you have beclowned your game, and you have beclowned all of the people who worked on your game. Shame on you.
I love that one of the next suggested videos is, well, that backfired.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes me sad because I did get to play a bit of the original Splitgate. I didn't actually play it like at home. I was at, I want to say RTX or PAX, and I was there doing I was working an Overwatch League event, and I stopped by. This is during like the beta phase of Splitgate, and I played a little bit. I was like, yeah, you guys have a really cool concept here, and you got to imagine this team's very tiny. They had a very tiny booth, and they were very humble. They were like, yeah, we had these concepts that like we just wanted to put these things together. Again, the Halo combat, the Portal style portals. We thought it would be really fun. Like they all seemed like they had a lot of love that they were putting into their title, and for their boss to just show up and be like, yeah, let me put my dick on the table and make FPSs great again. Also, one of the things that he said during this presentation was, you know, that we got a lot of the biggest esports athletes in the world to come and give us their knowledge on how to make the best FPS game.
Eye roll.
I'm going to tell you right now.
You hired consultants?
I'm going to tell you right now.
Congratulations.
Nobody wants the head FPS peoples in the world's opinion on shit. One of the most popular games online right now is Marvel Rivals, and they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they do not balance for the top tier.
They do not balance for the top tier. They're like, let Jeff fucking hose people from across the map because it makes people laugh.
Yeah, we don't care if it's OP in the highest ranks.
Right.
No one's making any money except for the money they give us for skins.
Right.
Like,
so, like,
why would we do that? Why would we make our game less fun so that I don't know, an esport could not pay us.
Right.
To
Get
play
that
our
toxic
game.
community the fuck out of here.
Because Jeff is taking somebody else's first-person shooting job.
Jeff can get the fuck out right now. I'm
fuck
done.
Jeff.
You
Fuck
know what?
Jeff so
Here's
hard
the thing.
right
The
now.
most important thing about Marvel Rivals is that once you hit gold, you can ban characters. Ban Jeff all the time. That's all I'm saying right now.
Get him out.
As somebody who plays competitive. All right. This next one is definitely a joint effort, but Hector, why don't you lead us off?
Yeah. I think I highlighted it first, but that's just because I did the highlighting first.
I'm going to set a little... If you didn't watch...
Bring us some fairy dust.
Yeah. If you didn't actually watch Summer Game Fest, there was this thing that they did where they had the actress who plays Lady Dimitrescu come out, and she puts on this big performance of, it's Resident Evil's anniversary, and we have something special for you. And you're like, oh my God, it must be a new Resident Evil game. I'm so excited. And then she goes, all of the Resident Evil games are on a deep discount on every platform right now, and specifically Resident Evil 7 and 8, you can get it at a very deep discount if you've always wanted to play it. And then it just cuts to black, and then they roll whatever game is next. And then like 20 minutes later, out of nowhere, they're like, here's a new Capcom trailer.
And it's just people in an office.
It's just people
and if you're watching the stream, you're watching it right now. It's just people in an office, and they're talking to each other, and you're sitting here like, what's going on?
For the record,
Like-
I watched this trailer with you guys.
Yeah.
And I called it as Resident Evil before
did.
anyone. Because I'm so outside of it, I just catch
The
glimpses.
moment that they said the name Ashcroft, I lost my shit.
Yeah, because it was just people talking about their office work, and I'm like, too real, I want to go home. And then we just it just slowly realizes as you're watching, it's like, oh fuck, this is Resident Evil 9, isn't it?
So there are like 10 people out there, and I'm one of them, that was really obsessed with the Resident Evil Outbreak games. They were online PS2 games.
I heard 2 of them died. There might just be 8
I
of
need you to understand, an online PS2 game was a really big deal at the time.
Oh yeah, you had
And
to
there
buy
were-
a modem
there,
separate.
There were dozens of us that played that game. We were such a close-knit community that we probably only ever played with each other, the 12 of us that played. So when they brought up the Ashcroft name, I was like, that's Resident Evil Outbreak. Why are we talking about Resident Evil Outbreak? And then the trailer starts showing Raccoon City and all these other things. And I'm like, oh my God, it's Resident Evil 9. We're getting it.
We're getting it right now, and it's they're keeping it going with the that we got first person, we got gorgeous graphics, we got really interesting
They
storytelling.
did confirm this week that Resident Evil Requiem, because of the way that they've been developing the RE engine, you can play it in first or third person.
Oh yeah, I believe they did that with the DLC for 8, didn't they?
They did, yes.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Super into it. Capcom engine, like, while it is maybe a tiny bit showing its age, it is still beautiful, and I dig the art styles that they create with it. So you know what? Don't change. You don't need to right now.
And I gotta say, because we've gotten hints that we're going to be going back to Raccoon City, and this is post the nuke being dropped. And honestly, it's been like 20 years since we nuked Raccoon
yeah, we've
City.
already been to Louisiana and to fucking the Alps or whatever.
So like
yeah.
20 years, like real time, that's about as long as it would take for a person to be able to safely go back into an area like that. We know that because of what we've done to other countries. But it's been so long since we've been around the Raccoon City Police Department or in Raccoon City in general. And I was happy. I was happy that 7 went away from the normal Resident Evil formula, and we went to Louisiana, and we went to other places. It's been so long since that game that I'm like, you know what? It's going to be like coming home.
Yeah.
Also, February 27th, 2026.
Yeah, I can't believe they dropped it like that soon.
Right.
Yeah,
right
we got a short like 9-month wait, and then we're there.
All right, Hector.
Oh man.
Elisa.
So Moonlighter 2. I'll tell you a little story, and this is early in the Game Pass days, about a little game called Moonlighter. And Moonlighter was a beautiful little 2D dungeon crawler where you would go into dungeons, and it was just like, gorgeously animated, and it would have interesting combat, and it was a little bit of a roguelike in that the dungeons reset every night. You go in, and you would grab stuff, and you would fill your bag with loot as much as you could carry. You wanted the most valuable stuff. And then during the day, you would leave the dungeon and go back to your shop and put all the items that you had gathered up for sale. And now you were playing a store simulator.
That's
And
so weird,
you were
and I'm
trying
so
to-
into it.
You were trying to manage your shop. You would set prices up or down. Things would sell. Things would not sell. You would decide if you wanted to put up advertising. You would decide if you wanted to make improvements to the town or things around you, or invest in other people's shops to draw more attention to yours. You had thieves, so you had to hire bouncers. It was a really cool shop simulator. And at night, you were dungeon crawling. And that's why it was Moonlighter. So Moonlighter, as I described to you before, is coming back. It looks a little 3D. It's got some more
Bastion
gorgeous, beautiful art. The shop looks great. And yeah, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
I kind of want to play the first one now that you've
You
broken
should.
it down.
You should at the very least give it a try. Yeah. Like, you don't have to finish it or nothing if you don't want to.
Is it on our Steam family account?
It almost certainly is. I know Ross played it, so it definitely is. Yes.
All right. So the next game.
Ah, yes. I'll let you
man.
go ahead and introduce this one.
Yeah. So I don't know how much I can introduce of it because I never played the original, but I saw the trailer for this, and the basic concept of this game is simply looking at famous pieces of artwork, ones that we all know from all the famous galleries out there. And the concept is look for things that don't belong in the artwork. Mm-hmm. So I played a game recently, as a point of comparison. Was it called like something in the cabin?
Oh, you're talking about the Cabin Factory.
Yeah, the Cabin Factory.
Yeah.
And in the Cabin Factory, the idea was you work on a line that creates cabins for horror movies, and occasionally one of them is haunted. And your job is to go into these things and figure out what things are out of place to determine whether or not the cabin is haunted. Please watch the artwork is the next game that we're talking about.
Yeah. So this comes from a creator who before was responsible for Please Touch the art. And this was a game. The thing about this developer is he just really loves art, and he wants more people to look at it because people don't go to museums anymore.
Well, I mean,
shame.
in fairness, even people who go to museums all the time, nobody knows art.
Right.
That's
right.
Not a thing.
And that's his thing, is he wants you to just be more familiar with this art. And so Please Touch the Art was about like walking into a museum and fiddling with the art and, you know, what might happen and what your goals are. And this one is Please Watch the Art, where you literally have to engage with a work of art to see what might not belong there. And the whole time you're just learning and contemplating and absorbing this you know, historical masterpiece, whether it's more contemporary or whether it's, you know, from hundreds of years ago. You're thinking about art, man, and there's something that does to your brain that we don't get a lot of these days. And
yeah,
I think it's an absolutely beautiful project and a wonderful concept.
I think I've shared this anecdote, but Jackie Gleason tried to do a game show about art back in the day. It lasted one single episode, and even he came on like his Jackie Gleason show the next night. He's like, did anybody catch that? Ooh. Because here's the deal. Nobody knows anything about art, so nobody could actually participate in the game show.
Yeah, it almost feels like we should teach art in school better.
Oh, wow.
Hector, shut up.
Better.
Wow.
Better than we do.
So
because
great if we actually appreciated the arts.
I went to a fucking magnet school, and even then our art class was like, here, make a clay vase.
You know, I did go to a magnet school for the arts, and, you know, it was really great.
No, I loved my school. I didn't learn anything about art.
Yeah. So the next game on the list, Hector, like, this is definitely all you.
Yes, The Outer Worlds 2. It takes a lot to get me to give a franchise a second chance. The Outer Worlds was a game that I wanted nothing but the best for. It was a game made by a group of people who split off from Bethesda and said, man, don't they make shitty games? We're going to make one of those, and we're going to make it right like we used to back in the day.
They made the best Fallout game.
Yeah. And then The Outer Worlds came out, and while it had a wicked sense of humor and interesting RPG mechanics, God, I got bored fast. I got bored so fucking fast. They failed to capture my attention, and I want to say I put about 10 hours into maybe a 60-hour RPG, and I was just done.
That's about what I put into it, too.
I was about done. I went ahead and I watched the trailer for Outer Worlds 2, and then I watched, because after the Xbox showcase, they previewed a couple of games with extended looks at them. This is one, and I'll be talking about another one here in a bit. But the Outer Worlds 2 looks cool, y'all. And maybe they're just getting me again. Maybe I'm a sucker, but like, this looks good. And their whole pitch was, we always planned for this series, this franchise, to never take place in the same place. We have an entire universe to explore. We can always have different aliens and different kinds of people and different civilizations and different things going on.
The only concept was supposed to be the evil corporations.
Right, though it's the evils of capitalism everywhere you go, because that's what capitalism does. But outside of that, we don't have to bring back anything that people thought was boring. We can do the whole thing different if we want to.
And this is the team behind, I know I stated it before, but let me clarify. This is the team behind Fallout New Vegas.
Right.
Which is widely considered the best Fallout game of all time.
Which is hilarious because, goddamn, that game is almost impossible to run in vanilla.
Yes.
Like that game was unfinished, and because not by the fault of the developers at all, by the fault of the people who were giving them money and deadlines. But again, Outer Worlds, certainly not my favorite. It had potential. And what I saw in this trailer was exactly that potential. And so you know what? It's going to be day one on Game Pass. I'm going to download it, and I'm going to play it, and I really, really hope it's great.
Yeah.
I want nothing but the best for this game, just like I did for the last one. Please capture my imagination. It's not that far off. It comes out right when we're in Japan, so we'll play it when we get back. But yeah, Outer Worlds 2 seems cool.
So, fun fact for my audience, if you didn't know this about me, I really like vampires.
Maybe there's a thing for vampires,
I have
y'all,
a thing.
in case you didn't know.
If you didn't know, I love them
So
much.
A little bit.
Spent like 5 days in Los Angeles just being a vampire. It was fantastic. There is a game coming out called The Blood of the Dawnwalker. Now, I like to play vampire games when they come out. Legacy of Cain is one of my favorite series of all time.
Do you mind if I do a little preface before you get in?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Rebel Wolves. Rebel Wolves is a studio. Rebel Wolves is the studio full of people that decided, you know what? CD Projekt Red is too corporate. We're going to do the whole thing different. We're going to do CDPR style, like, beautiful cinematics and incredible looking gameplay, top quality everything, and amazing storytelling with acting and gravitas and like feature film quality graphics. And they made a game about vampires.
They did.
And I'm so excited. But Gabe, go ahead.
And don't even get me wrong. Like, I love me a modern vampire story. I play in many, many Vampire the Masquerade games that are set in modern times. But Blood of the Dawnwalker is a medieval vampire game where your protagonist, we assume, got turned, but they're not fully turned, so that they can still kind of exist in the daylight, and you become a hunter. And you still have to feed, you fight, you still have vampiric powers, but you are against all of the vampires who are essentially trying to rule Europe. There's a big colonization aspect to this story that I got from the trailer.
Vampires as a metaphor for the rich.
Right? I can't believe that would happen. Yeah, like, the more I see about this, it's fascinating graphically. It's not like a standout graphically, but it does have a unique art style to it, and I'm going to be very curious to see how it plays. Now, there is a history in the vampire game community, and I don't just mean Vampire the Masquerade, I mean like the game Vampire or Legacy of Cain.
Every vampire game.
Every vampire game where they kind of come out with a little bit of jank usually, but like over time they get like, either patched or fan patches or things like that.
Yeah, for some reason vampires can't break out of the AA.
Yeah. AA is just where vampires tend to live. But yeah, Blood of the Dawnwalker, it looks good. I don't know if it's going to be a day one for me because I'm going to wait for some reviews, but the concept of it, I'm super, super excited for.
Yeah. It might be a day one for me just because I want to see what a breakoff studio from CDPR is. For anyone new to the show, for me, I'm a bit of a fan of CD Projekt Red. I am a fan of their games.
For some people in their company to go, hey, they're too corporate for us.
Yeah.
That's weird, man.
Yeah, no, you know what, and I respect it. Like, goddamn, way to have standards. I can't wait to see what you make.
Yeah. All right, so next on the list. Okay, the reason I'm going to talk about the next game on the list here is not just because I have an interest in it. So as many of you know, like, I'm a big goth, which means I had a big steampunk phase growing up as well. But of all the games that were announced during Sony State of Play, Day of the Devs, Summer Games Fest, this was the game that multiple people on my friends list sent me the trailer for and said, if you haven't seen this, watch it.
Does this mean all your friends think you're steampunk?
Well, I mean, I was. I can show you pictures of me in steampunk outfits.
I'm sorry.
The game is called Clockwork Revolution. And it is a game that is a narrative-focused, first-person shooter, steampunk game with light time travel elements to it. It feels like a BioShock game.
It really does. Like top to bottom,
and
feels
I mean
like
that
BioShock.
as that is one of my favorite games of all time. And the characters have personality, and they all have their own unique stories. And when I heard time travel, I always get a bit iffy about that in video games. Because I'm like, I don't know, Prince of Persia, I guess you rewind time for a couple seconds and it sucks. No. Like, this game seems to really, like, I mean, you described it the best earlier.
Right, yeah. Instead of doing something like, oh, you know, we rewind time when we die and nothing bad happened to us, it's more like, hey, we can manipulate time around objects. So if I shoot a guy full of bullets, I can then yank the bullets specifically back out of him and reload my gun with him. But he still got shot. The only thing I manipulated time on was the bullets themselves. And now I'm going to shoot some more because my gun's reloaded. And just, it seems really creative and really interesting the way they're using these powers.
It makes me think of, like, if a bunch of game developers went, hey, what if we did Dishonored but silly?
Right? Dishonored but, like, mutton chops and steampunk.
Right.
And, like, you know what movie was cool that I didn't understand? Tenet. We're going to put some Tenet in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, it's an RPG as well. Like, you have dialogue options, and you have to, like, actually interact with other characters.
Yeah, certainly
like,
choices in how to you know, empower yourself.
And you know what? Not for nothing, but, like, to all my friends who sent me that trailer, you know what James shit is.
Yeah.
You saw this trailer, like, that's some James shit. Everybody send him the trailer. So, yeah, super, super excited about that. All right, Hector, you are next on the list.
All right. So here's a game that we've both played and had a good time with. And this was one of those open world survival types, which is not necessarily James's cup of tea. But, you know, when it's the bros hanging out, having a good time, playing games at night, he's in. He's down to clown. And we dragged him into a little survival game called Grounded. And what in the scenario was... I may be
For the
dating
record,
myself.
I have not seen this trailer before, so I'm watching this live while you're describing this.
I may be dating myself,
parody.
but the original game was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. It was straight up, you were shrunk down to the size where you're about, I don't know, a third of the size of the average ant, and you are in the lawn, and you need to survive. You need to pick up rocks and sticks and make hammers and spears, and everything wants to eat you, and you need to make a little fortress, and you need to go out, and you need to gather materials. And the thing is, you're trapped.
The spiders were terrifying.
Yeah, the spiders were terrifying. And you are trapped in the lawn of a mad scientist who has done this to you, and you need to figure out how. And the thing is, he's been this size too. So there were little miniature bases all over his yard that you go and find and figure out, and they're all little dungeons with puzzles and like. Man, what a cool game.
But do you befriend an ant?
Yes.
What?
And this one goes even further. This is like, instead of just a single yard, you have an entire city park that you're going to be in. And now you can ride the insects. You can have mounts. And the different mounts do different things. Ants are good at building. Spiders are good at combat. You know, and it all depends on what you're picking up on. And they made equipment matter more. They make you, like, build into a character class. You could be a guy who throws cool little poison grenades, or a rogue who backstabs, or a guy with armor who can tank and fight off really big bugs. And it's just more co-op, more grounded, more interesting things going on. And it's all the same characters. All the same characters are there that you could play as in the first one. And they're 3 or 4 years older. Everyone knows what happened to them, and somehow it's happened again. And there was some kind of event in town, so the park is newly abandoned. So there's food and shit everywhere, and everything's kind of knocked over, and you have all of this amazing area to play around in. And we're dragging you back in, James.
Drag me back in.
Yeah, it's gonna be so good.
I only play survival games because of y'all.
Yeah,
and thank fuck that you guys have things that you like to do in survival games that are specific tasks.
Yeah.
Because I'm just gonna go out there and kill things, and you like to build stuff, and Ross likes to go out and do. And I'm all right, at least you guys have things to do. I fucking hate survival games. All right, only one more game to talk about, and this is very brief from the end of Summer Games Fest. This was a reveal trailer. We all kind of knew this was happening, but Atlas is remaking Persona 4. Which has already kind of been remade in Persona 4 Golden, but it's being done kind of in the Persona 5 engine. So it's a way to get players to experience the Persona 4 world in a way that they never have before. Honestly, Persona 4, I played 1 and 2 very briefly as a kid. Those are so vastly different than 3 and everything that happened after. I jumped into the Persona series with Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, and I quickly dumped 200 hours into it, and then I played Persona 5 and dumped 200 hours into it, and then I played Persona 3 after so many recommendations and dumped 200 hours into that, and then went 3 is the best one. That's so wild to me. 4 Golden, or 4 Revival, it's going to be, I am going to play it. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will say that in the pantheon of Persona games, it's currently my least favorite, and I want to say that very lightly. Don't think that I'm saying don't play this game. I'm just saying that Persona 3 is really fucking good, y'all. That's good soup. Mm-hmm. The fact
5 is 5.
Yeah, and 5 is 5, and I love 5 to death. But also
5 is the most vibes.
They've been beating that dead horse for a while. I'm so tired of 5 expansions. But for Revival, I will play it. I am excited for it. And they did actually, as of today, Atlas put out a Instagram post that said, we hope that you're excited for Persona 4 Revival. With the release of this game, just know that we are actively working on the next title in the Persona series, which is Persona 6, which we've all been waiting for 8 years now. So we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
All right. That is everything that we have for Summer Games Fest. We are going to do a brief epilogue where we talk about what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks since we've been gone. So, yeah, let's just go right into it. Let's go right into the epilogue. This is about what we've been playing, what we've been watching, what's been occupying our free time, and what has been making us happy. So, John, why don't we start with you?
In the spirit of keeping it brief, obviously I've been playing Borderlands 3 still. It's been my part-time job. But I finally hit another peak of joy because I am at the, I don't even remember what it's called. It's the Cowboy DLC. It's you get the saucy voiceover for every mission, and I am in love with it so much that I'm literally going back to other DLC and completing, arbitrary missions just because I want to savor every bit of this Western tale. And so that's been fun. That's what I've been up to.
All right. Yeah, let me do mine. As you all know, I had started Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And then, dear viewer, tragedy befell me. My life is ruined. I was called back to the office.
By the government.
By Greg Abbott. If anyone,
No, I believe his government name is Greg fucking Abbott.
Greg fucking Abbott. And so if anyone wants to go talk to him about that, you didn't hear it from me. But because of that, I had to rearrange my entire life, my entire schedule, and it changed the way that I interact with video games. I now hoard time for myself to play video games. And that put a big stopper on my Expedition 33. And I've been wandering in and out of different things ever since, just trying to get my bearings and find out where my time is before I can go back and dedicate the time to this game that I know it deserves. So the first thing I started doing was I weirdly got the itch to play the Bethesda Wolfenstein games again, the ZeniMax ones. For some reason, I really felt like shooting Nazis. Take from that what you will.
I mean,
it's weird,
always,
right?
It's always a good time to kill Nazis.
There's never a bad time to shoot Nazis in a video game or real life. But once that was out of my system, the DLC for Lies of P dropped. And again, if you know anything about me, you know that I love the Lies of P. The first time I played it was on Game Pass, but as soon as the DLC came out, I bought it for the Steam Family Library that me and my friends are a part of, and I went right to work to get into the DLC, and all I can tell you is that it's more Lies of P. Lies of P is the spiritual sequel to Bloodborne. It's everything that Bloodborne was. The studio really understood what made Bloodborne fun, and then they made it about Pinocchio. And somehow that's fucking awesome. It's so good. Best Souls-like I've ever
on
played.
Paper, not in practice.
Yeah, and it's so fucking good. I can't recommend it enough. I'm still in it, and I might play the game again when I'm done. But now that I know where my gameplay week to week lies, I can finally get back into Clair Obscur 33 as soon as I'm done with Lies of P. And it's going to be glorious. That's what I've been up to.
I'm so excited for Clair Obscur. I finished Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And if any of you have finished it and need to have a mental health check-in, I'm here, and I'm happy to talk about it with you.
So it's a game that does finish.
It absolutely is a start-to-finish game. So just as a quick thing on this, Clair Obscur is the series that they're hoping to make. Expedition 33 is the specific story. So they're kind of hoping to do a anthology.
Gotcha.
And Expedition 33 was a specific story that they told. And Jesus Christ, I'm obsessed with it, and I can't shut up about it, except I can't talk about it, because none of my friends have played it, and now it's a problem, and I'm going to make it your problem. So, Expedition 33, absolutely fantastic. We've been watching various Westerns, because right now you guys are pulling me through, forcing me to watch Westerns right now. I think we did The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. What did we watch last night?
We watched A Fistful of Dollars.
Fistful of Dollars, which was just Yojimbo.
Yeah, so much just Yojimbo that they got sued by Akira Kurosawa for it.
Yep. We went and saw the newest Wes Anderson movie, The Phoenician Scheme.
The Phoenician Scheme. Man, was that a good time.
My Letterboxd review was that if you love Wes Anderson, you're going to love this movie. If you don't like Wes Anderson, this is probably not the movie that's going to convert you. Benicio del Toro, absolutely fantastic. Good time for everybody.
I love that you guys watched Young Guns right after The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Actually, no. We didn't. We actually ramped up from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly to Tombstone.
Oh.
To Young Guns, and then
That's
where we are now.
hilarious.
So I want to. There is a little thing that I want to talk about very briefly. Is on the show we try and do our research when it comes to not only news topics but things that we talk about. A lot of podcasts and YouTube channels are really about honestly getting their hits off of shitting on other things. And to that point, there's been at least a couple times over the last few years that Hector and I have made kind of just very brief, joking, quip comments about like, oh, there's a Netflix game department. That's got to be dumb. Or I can't believe that would be good. And over the last couple of weeks, I decided that I wanted to put my money where my mouth was, and I wanted to go ahead and just try out the Netflix games. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this, if you have a Netflix account and have a phone, you can open up your Netflix app, and there is just a slew of games that are available.
And forgive me, is this something that they canceled or like they?
No, it's still going.
It still exists.
They've still they're still funding it.
Okay.
So many of the games are exactly what we were kind of picking on in the show. There's a lot of like, it's a 90-day fiance dating game, stuff like that. And those are obviously not our genre or things like that. But what I want to mention is that, remember, this is a free service if you have Netflix already. On the Netflix Games app, for the last couple weeks, I have been playing Civ 6, Civilization 6. And I don't mean like a half-baked version of Civ 6. It is a 6 gig download on my phone that I am playing a mobile version of Civ 6 with all of the expansions just rebuilt to be played on a phone. Completely air quotes free because I have a Netflix account. There are other games I've been playing. Into the Breach, FTL,
Great games.
Game Dev Tycoon. These are all games that you can readily get if you have a Netflix account and have your phone.
A weird question. Can you play like with your remote control of your television, or is it a...
I believe that you can do Bluetooth connectivity and actually like use a controller, but like I just play it on my phone because it was built. That was the thing so I wouldn't even be having this discussion if it wasn't for the fact that I downloaded Civ 6 as I was drunk and went, man, this is gonna suck. I can't wait to play this and fucking make fun of it on the podcast. And then I downloaded it and went, holy shit, they fucking pulled it off.
But like, could you play with your Roku controller?
I don't know. I haven't tried. Like, these are, I'm sure that I know there are settings to connect a Bluetooth controller to your phone and play it on that. But like, this was me laying in bed before like I passing out for work the next day. And I was like, this will be funny. I'll make fun of playing Civ 6 on my phone. And then an hour later, as Civ does, I'm like, what the fuck? Where did my time go? Why are there cats sleeping next to me? What just happened? No, like legitimately, Netflix Games does have some really interesting titles on there. And I'm going to double back on this and say, like, maybe give it a shot. If you have a Netflix account and have a phone, like, go and try a couple of their titles. Especially, I've been playing a lot of, like, Into the Breach and FTL lately, which are two of my favorite indie titles of all time. And if you're a strategic person, if you enjoy strategic games, these are the games for you. Ignore all the fucking 90-day fiance dating sim bullshit that's on there. Like, legitimately, Netflix has dropped money into this. And, like, for the fact that it's just the cost of your normal Netflix account and they're not charging you a premium for this, pretty impressive.
And in fairness, that's the same crap you got to avoid when you're on Steam or Xbox.
Absolutely. 100%.
And I want to say, I would not say we are haters at all. We are cynical skeptics who can be proven wrong and are open to be proven wrong anytime. So we dive right in sometimes.
All right. That's everything we have for the show this week. Don't forget that you can head over to goodnight.gg to become a patron of our show. You can head over to facebook.com/GNGGcast where you can chat with us, as well as at GNGGcast on Twitter and goodnight.gg on Blue Sky to talk to me directly. But until next time, for Hector, this is James.
And for James, this is Hector.
And for you, this is me.
Everyone, good night.
And good game.